Assalamualaikum. My name is Utaba Khan, and the main topic of my presentation is adverse effects of chemotherapy and the agents. There is a subtopic of common and acute toxicities, which include hematologic toxicities, gastrointestinal tract toxicities, dermatologic toxicities, and I will explain gastrointestinal tract toxicities and some of dermatologic toxicities. Chemotherapy agents are toxic to cancer cells and also to various host tissues and organs. Common and acute toxicities generally include adverse effects that occur as a result of inhibition of host cell division. Host tissues most susceptible to chemotherapy include tissues with renewable cell populations such as lymphoid tissues, bone marrow, and epithelium of the gastrointestinal tract and skin. The first is gastrointestinal tract toxicities, which include nausea, vomiting, oral complications, esophagitis, and lower bowel disturbance. First is nausea and vomiting. Nausea and vomiting are the serious toxicities associated with the many chemotherapeutic agents. Their metabolites, neurotransmitter, may stimulate the dopamine and serotonin receptors in the GI tract, which then trigger chemoreceptor zones and then stimulate the central nervous system, which ultimately act on the vomiting center. These symptoms, emesis, most occur in the first day of chemotherapy, and these symptoms peak several hours after administration and can last for 24 hours. Some neoplastics can also cause nausea and vomiting for a longer period of time after chemotherapeutic administrations. The chemotherapy induced nausea and vomiting depends on the several factors, which include female gender, poor control of symptoms in prior cycles, history of motion sickness or nausea with pregnancy, anxiety, and depression. Then we have complications of oral cavity. Complications of oral cavity include mucositis or stomatitis, xerostomia, dry mouth, infection, and bleeding. And 40% of patients which is treated with chemotherapy develop oral complications, and virtually all the patients who also received radiation therapy to the head and neck develop oral complications. These toxicities occur because of non-specific effects of chemotherapy on the cells undergoing rapid cell divisions, including the cells of mouth that undergo rapid renewals with a turnover time equal to 7 to 14 days. Chemotherapy reduces the renewal rate of the basal epithelium and causes mucosal atrophy as well as glandular and collagen degeneration. Radiation can also cause fibrosis of salivary glands, muscles, ligaments, and blood vessels and damage to the taste buds. These combined effects of chemotherapy and the radiation on the oral mucosa also develop infection and bleeding in the oral cavity. Because infection and bleeding occur when treatment causes bone marrow suppression, including thrombocytopenia and neutropenia, and because oral mucosa is highly vascular and frequently traumatized, bleeding occurs commonly with low platelet counts. The example of xerostomia, which is dry mouth, which accelerate the development of micrositis as well as formation of dental caries and local infections. These complications may vary degree of discomfort and adversely affect the patient's ability to eat and can lead to the compromised nutritional status. Amifostine, which is an organic thiophosphate chemoprotectant agent, is approved to reduce the incidence of moderate to severe xerostomia in the patients receiving the postoperative radiation treatment for head and neck cancers. A randomized clinical trial demonstrated that the xerostomia was reduced by 30% in patients receiving 200 mg as a 3-minute IV infusion 15 to 30 minutes before each fraction of radiations. Then we have esophagitis. Esophagitis is the damage of the mucous lining because of the chemotherapy and the radiation. Although there is dysphagia which is commonly associated with the esophagitis, so first we have should rule out the dysphagia which caused because of the other problems. Because patients receiving myelosuppressive chemotherapy develop the infections, esophagitis, bacterial, could be bacterial, viral, and fungal culture, so should be completely to rule out before treatment started for esophagitis. Medications include H2 receptor antagonists, antacid, and proton pump inhibitors may help to reduce esophageal irritation and improve comfort. Then we have lower GI tract complications, and these lower tract complications associated with chemotherapy include malabsorptions, diarrhea, and constipations. These complications related to structural changes that occur in the GI tract after chemotherapy or radiation therapy. Some investigators noted that there is a villous atrophy and cessation of the mitosis within the GI crypt in patients treated with the chemotherapy. There is also swelling and dilations of mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulums, and there is a shortening of microvilli also. These all changes in small and large bowel decrease the absorption of medication in the small intestines due to the several drugs that have narrow therapeutic index following the chemotherapy include phenytoin, verapamil, and digoxin. Then we have diarrhea and the constipations. Chemotherapy induced intestinal changes may be responsible for the diarrhea and frequently occur with regimens containing irinotecan, high doses cetarabine or fluorouracils. The vinca alkaloids, which produce colicky, abdominal pains, constipation, and dynamic ileus caused by autonomic nerve dysfunction, can cause chemotherapy-induced constipations. Constipation can be problematic of therapy with the thalidomide. The constipation should be treated with stool softeners and mild stimulants. The true incidence of diarrhea and constipation is not known, which is associated with the chemotherapy. But because of many medications like opioid analgesics, antiemetics, antacid, and situations like immobility commonly associated with the cancers in chemotherapy can cause these symptoms as well. Then we have dermatological toxicities. Dermatological toxicities associated with the chemotherapy include alopecia, hypersensitivity reactions, exudations, and hyperpigmentations. Dermatological toxicity can also occur with chemotherapy agents with vesicant properties of extravasate from the veins into surrounding soft tissues. Dermatological toxicity, there is a dry skin. Many chemotherapeutic agents like bleomycins, hydroxyurea, and fluorouracils cause the dryness of the skin and cause fine scaling on the surface. Normally, there is a sebaceous and sweat glands which provide lipids and provide lactates and also moisture retentations of the stratum corneums. Then we have hypersensitive reactions. All cancer chemotherapy agents except L-trimine, nitrourease, and dictinomycins produce at least an isolated instance of hypersensitive reactions. Especially all types of hypersensitive reactions occur in chemotherapy agent, but especially there is in type 1 which is most common occur and not in the chemotherapy. Then we have a case study which is related to diarrhea. A 60-year-old woman with recurrent colorectal cancer refractory to fluorouracil is beginning her first course of irinotecan 125 mg per m2 weekly for 4 weeks, followed by a 2 weeks rest period. What instruction should she receive regarding the management of diarrhea? Should she experience these complications? There is a subject and object. We have 60 years old women have with recurrent colorectal cancer. Medication which we are given is fluorouracil and irinotecan. Assessment: irinotecan can cause severe diarrhea both early and late in the course of chemotherapy. The early and late onset of diarrhea appear to be mediated by different mechanisms. An early diarrhea, which is occur after 24 within 24 hours after treatment may be mediated by parasympathetic stimulations. Patients often report cholinergic symptoms such as rhinitis, increased salivation, mitosis, lacrimation, diaphoresis, flushing, and abnormal cramping as well. And these symptoms, now we have planning. These symptoms can be prevented and managed by atropine IV or subcutaneous 0.25 to 1 mg. Late onset diarrhea, which is occur after 24 hours after treatment, can be prolonged, leading to dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, and significant morbidity. So, patients should receive loperamide 4 mg with the first episode of diarrhea and repeat doses equal to 2 mg every 2 hours until 12 hours have been passed without a bowel movement. Fluid and electrolyte replacements should be administered if necessary. If the potential severe complications associated with aortic and associated diarrhea, prompt treatment cannot be offered overemphasized. These are randomized trials comparing loperamide and octreotide in patients with acute leukemia on those undergoing BMT found that loperamide is more effective. Nevertheless, some evidence shows that the octreotide may be useful successfully manage the diarrhea associated with the fluoridation and other high-dose chemotherapy regimens. What octreotide do that it reduces the anti-secretory activity in the gut and promote the absorption of sodium, chloride, and water from luminant content. Patients should receive doses ranging from 100 to 2000 mcg percutaneous 3 times daily or 20 to 40 mg of long-acting octreotide. And there is a current evidence that octreotide should be limited to second-line therapy for chemotherapy-associated diarrhea. First is loperamide, then we can go to the second line, which is the octreotide. Thank you.